Hello, everybody. This is Joe Harper with Reformed Truther Ministries, and I'm very excited to welcome Alexei Kokoulin back to the show. Alexei, welcome back to Reformed Truther Ministries.
Glad to be back.
Yeah, you're coming all the way from the great country of Albania. I see you got the Albanian flag there. So
Yeah, it's
I like
actually
I like that. We were talking about this off camera. I think your background there is kind of jumps right onto the screen there.
yeah, it's pretty cool flag actually. Like compared to like other countries, you have like actually eagle and some kind of scary eagle actually if you look at it. Like
Yeah,
quite
it's kind of
small.
about to say, like, if somebody like if they had that flag in battle back in the day, I'd be a little freaked out. well, that,
Yeah, yeah,
well, anyway, we're going to be talking about today. We're doing it's a power. You're going to do a PowerPoint presentation, and then we're going to kind of do an interview afterward. But the topic today is the gospel in Albania. So you're going to be talking to us about your experiences sharing the gospel in Albania. You're going to tell us what the state of Christianity is in Albania. And I think this is kind of a cool topic because for Christians in the United States, America, it's really easy for us to have tunnel vision and forget what the situation of the church is like in other countries. And I also think in general, Americans just don't know a whole lot about Albania. So I think this is going to be a really cool interview because we're going to cover some topics, we're going to go over some information that doesn't always get talked about here in the States amongst American Christians. So this is going to be a really good one today.
yep.
All
So
righty.
let's do this slide number one. Just
All right. So just so the audience know that we're going to start by you're going to do your PowerPoint presentation first, and then afterward I have some questions and we'll kind of interact more once you're done with your PowerPoint.
Yes. So
Okay.
Albania is actually basically between Italy and Greece. They have also countries nearby, which is like North Macedonia, Kosovo, and Montenegro. It's a small country, almost 3 million people in it. However, interesting part is that like between 7 to 10 million of Albanians live in the world. They is basically like majority of Albanians actually leave Albania. They live outside of Albania. They try to flee to like Greece or United States or Germany. So
And why do they want to why are they trying to get out? Is it because of the poverty or what's the reason?
yes, because the I think it's the next slide about uh, uh no, oh, okay, in a few more slides, but yeah, it's actually due to poverty, basically corruption, like big time corruption in Albania.
Mm.
It's but to some degree it's interesting things that like um the richest country, like at least the infrastructure wise, like I would say Montenegro is the best one. So if you got money, if you want to go somewhere really nice, actually Montenegro I would say is the best one. Italy, I would say it's division. Italy is divided in two parts: North Italy and Southern Italy. Actually, funniest part, Southern Italy is worse than Albania, sad to say. But North Italy is like better than United States, and some of the things is just like wow, like almost like not everybody, but many people drive Ferrari, Bugatti, whatever in the north side.
Yeah,
But
a lot more wealth in northern Italy than in the south. Yeah, and I think that's been true for centuries. I mean, even you go back to like the Renaissance, those eras of history, a lot of those great merchant republics, Florence, Milan, Venice, all that's always been in the north, not the south. So yeah,
yeah,
that's some good context for not just Albania, but the whole Mediterranean a little bit. That's cool.
yep.
So
Well, actually, interesting part about Albania is that actually they have two dialects: task dialect and the gag dialect. And if only like the person lived in a northern part, they would be sometimes misunderstood by the southern part. But interesting like thing about alphabet, it's actually very easy to learn how to read it, but the language itself is actually very complicated, is very hard. So if you're gonna go to Albania, yeah, it's gonna be easy to learn how to read, but to speak it, it'll be a lot harder, especially if you want to present the gospel.
Hmm. Okay, so that's cool. Man.
But interesting part, like there's a small town, by the way. It's not small town, but I should have probably checked it out how many people live in it. But Saranda, which is actually right across Greek island Corfu. Uh, Pretty much, as far as I understood, that most of these people speak Greek language. So if you want practice speaking Greek in Albania, it's actually really good because native Greek speakers speak super fast. I'll just give you a heads up. Like if you study Greek, modern Greek, um, Greek people speak very fast, but Albanians, I can actually understand them and actually speak to them in Greek.
Hmm.
So if you know Greek, modern Greek, here we go, the place for you to practice half a speed Saranda.
Yeah, for sure. So what you're saying is they have the Albanian language and they have the two dialects, one in the north, one in the south, but then a lot of Albanians will also speak modern Greek.
Yes, in the south, specifically, like if you see the what's some the blue part, you
Yeah,
see,
right. Great.
yeah,
Right.
right there. You see like bunch of blue. That's basically Greek
Yeah.
speakers there. So it's a town by the name Saranda, and like I said, if you want to practice some Greek, go there, have some good time.
Cool. That's very cool. Uh, Slide
Oh
forward.
yeah. So basically, sad to say, if you notice, Albania is like a number six uh, in the category of poverty or like the lowest income. And actually, like I asked a bunch of people how much they actually get paid. In reality, most of the people actually make about $5,000 a year, because as far as I understood, this flat rate as actually goes from prime minister and all the like super rich people all the way to the bottom, but it's kind of like unevenly because you have like prime minister makes like how much, I don't know, $500 million a year versus everybody else is just getting by. So actually, the normal person's salary is about $5,000.
Yeah.
By the way,
Go
yeah,
ahead.
yeah, and like interesting things that my um, aunt from Belarus. We talked today about how much they make. They actually make about similar, about $5,000-6,000 a year. So it's actually sad to say one of the poorest countries in Europe. But the good part is this: if you're American, if you already have like a retirement or you have some kind of disability where government or a company pays you, let's just say, just say even a $1,000 a month, you kind
Right.
of good to go. You can actually go there, evangelize, live decent life, evangelize, and more worry about evangelizing to people.
Yeah. So what you're saying is that uh, Albanians make less money. There's less wealth available to get, but you're also saying that the cost of living is a lot closer. Your money's going to go a lot farther, which ironically for Americans would be a good opportunity for missions because if they wanted to direct, wanted to get people over there, they could do it with that, with less. The financial resources would go farther than perhaps in other countries.
Exactly. Like look at countries like Moldova, Bosnia, Herzegovina, North Macedonia, Albania, Montenegro, Serbia. I would not recommend Americans to go there because in the end of the one of your questions will deal with Serbia and the
Yeah.
Yugoslavian war in the end. But like the other countries, you're welcome to go. And
Yeah.
like I said, you can literally send a missionary for $1,000 a month, which is like, let's just say $12,000 a year, bunch of them.
All right. So, all right, churches, if you're watching this and you're praying where to send your missionary, consider Albania.
Yeah, Albania,
Yeah.
Bosnia Herzegovina. By the way, funniest part that Bosnian language is quite similar to Russian language, where Albanian, honestly, funniest part is that Greece next to Albania and Italy is next to Albania, but Italian and Greek language will not help you. English will not help you. I mean, you might learn how to read, but how to speak it and the sentence structure are completely different.
Hmm.
So just maybe like if you're gonna go evangelize, like pick the country and for 3 months download like a Duolingo or Pimsleur or Preply. Go to like preply.com, get some lessons of that language for like 3 months to see even if you're capable of learning it, because some people won't just want to go to country they're gonna evangelize, but I mean, sad to say, we're not in Acts chapter 2, guys. So probably trying to learn the language first a little bit, see how you do for like 3 months, and if you are totally unable to, like, I mean, I try to learn Albanian, but it's just like
It's difficult language.
very difficult. And funniest part that there's trainer. She's originally from Greece, but her parents are from Albania, and she speaks fluent Albanian. And I read like one chapter of the Bible in Greek and one chapter, the same chapter in Albanian, and she's like, Alexei, just focus on Greek. Your Albanian sucks.
Yeah. And just for context, I don't know if we said this because you're living in Albania right now and you do a lot of evangelism and your wife is Albanian and so she's able to translate for you when you're out on the street talking to people.
Yes, exactly,
So,
exactly.
yeah, and so yeah, that's cool. Well, and we're gonna go into more detail on that a little bit later, but just the context, like yeah, Alexi, you were there and you're talking to people
Yeah,
on the street. So this is stuff that this isn't just theoretical information you decide to present. You're
yeah.
living
2 years now, actually, my anniversary of being married and being in Albania for 2 years now. So
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, very cool. You're on the front lines, my friend.
yeah, and like actually, it's a little bit just changed. Islam to drop down to 45% now, and I think it's Roman Catholicism raised up to like a 10, and Orthodoxy about 9 or 10 as well.
Hmm.
So unless you're compromising Christian, there's plenty work to do because you literally have like um, Islam idolatry, Roman Catholicism is idolatry, Orthodoxy is idolatry, and out of like 0. I think it's 4.5. Actually, the next slide will show you that it's actually only 0.45% are so-called Protestants, but
Yeah.
it's
So
really
like
not. But
so whether evangelical or Protestant, whatever word you want to use, is a slim fraction of a percentage point.
exactly, and actually, in this slide, notice so Protestantism in Albania is a small but growing minority religion with around 13,000 followers or 0.45 of the population. And saddest part that what I see is actually most of so-called Protestants are Mormons, Jehovah Witnesses, and prosperity gospel nonsense people.
Yeah.
So Sad to say, it's like, I mean, maybe like 0.01%, because so far I try to go to as many churches as I could throughout Albania. And so far I saw one good church in Tirana and one good church in Shkodër. And it's small churches, about 10, 20 people, depending on Sunday. Um, but the rest of it is, like I said, I see Jehovah Witnesses standing with their stands. By the way, I saw them everywhere, both in Italy, in Greece, in Albania, in the United States. They standing there and at least trying to talk to people. Mormons actually is more aggressive. They actually almost kind of do like my style of evangelism. I just walk to them and ask them a couple of questions. I usually ask them, hey, can I ask you a couple of spiritual questions? And trying to present the truth depending on how they answer. And of course, the other thing is I always try to invite them for the coffee or with some eat something in restaurants. So yeah, but Protestantism, it's like like I said, 0.45%, and most of the so-called Protestants are false converts or false religion. Like I said, like Mormonism and Jehovah Witnessism, it's total abomination. So
Yeah, that we could do entire PowerPoints just on that. Maybe this would be a good time for you. Like you're telling me off camera how outside the United States, churches can be typically pretty different in terms of things like how they view membership, how churches operate. Maybe you could talk a little bit about that for the audience.
yeah, I mean, especially like with the poverty, it's kind of like I asked my wife, like, have you heard of like a church membership? She's like, what is it? Like, I just go to church. So for her was kind of like this whole American like church membership where you have to sign a piece of paper, bunch of piece of papers, have to give like almost like an oath to a man-made covenant. That was just uh, kind of weird, especially like with also like lots of church corruption because sad to say, how would Donald Trump would say, America doesn't send its best.
Yeah, it seems like you've told me that it's kind of a great it sounds like for missions it's kind of a graveyard, Albania. There's not a whole lot in terms of American evangelicals going over there.
Yeah, and saddest part actually was a couple of months ago. I met this American lady. She married Albanian husband, and they were also going like I was like, guys, this is my park, this type of thing. It's like, especially afterwards, I find out actually when I find out they are. Well, she's like universalist. I was like, so you basically saying that Roman Catholicism okay, Islam is okay. I forgot. I forgot. It was like a spiritism. It's like a New Age Christianity type of thing. And I'm like, why are you here? Like, if all the religions lead to this, leads to God, is the way of salvation. Why are you here? Why are you even evangelizing? For what? I
Right.
mean,
Yeah,
it's
you mentioned this too off camera that you said, I mean, the Balkans has always been the crossroads of all these religions. You have Eastern Orthodoxy is all over Eastern Europe, and then Roman Catholicism, and then Islam came in after the Ottoman Empire came into the Balkans. But like you told me how there's this really prevalent trend of universalism. Despite whatever religion they're professing, there's this kind of this spirit of universalism that's prevalent. And you've seen it in your conversations on the street, sharing the gospel with people.
yes. I'm not sure if the next slide is about Skanderberg or no, the hero. Oh
This
no, no.
So
No, but we'll come back to this question when we get to Skanderberg, because seems like actually he's kind of started somewhat like a religious toleration within Albania. That you first Albanian, then later on Muslim or Catholic or Orthodox. But saddest part to me, I'll read a couple of Bible verses. Matthew 23:15. Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, for you travel across sea and land to make a one single proselyte, and when he becomes a proselyte, you make him twice as much a child of hell as yourself. Versus like a great commission, go therefore and make disciples of all nations. Interesting thing is that Pharisees also looks like they were proselytizing, going, trying to making disciples. But the problem is that what I see in Albania is a bunch of Pharisees, a bunch of Mormons, bunch of prosperity gospel nonsense people, Jehovah Witnesses, making a proselyte here and then make them twice as a child of hell as they are.
right.
Especially to me, like prosperity nonsense people is just so disgusting to me, like especially in Albania, because most of the people live in poverty here, and
Yeah, that's where the
yep,
rubber meets the road of that theology. Like you're going to go to this nation that is an impoverished nation and you're going to tell them, "Well, if you have great faith, you're going to end up rich and prosperous like, like the 1% of Americans, top 1%." And when it doesn't happen, what are those people going to think? Because God can do whatever he wants, but he's probably not going to make you rich if you're living in an impoverished nation. If he did, the Lord can do it, but that's not going to be the norm providentially. That's not how it's going to work. So you're just going to lead people being disillusioned, and they're going to be tempted to write off Christianity altogether because you've presented this false prosperity gospel.
yeah, that's very sad. So let's see what's the next slide.
I'll say the one other thing I'll say I wanted
Yeah.
to comment before we go to the next one about Mormons and Jehovah's Witnesses is this is true in the States. I'm sure it's true over there. They're very zealous in
Yeah,
evangelizing.
I was
Yeah, more so than evangelical Christians.
exactly, and
yeah,
sad to say, like, well, once again, like maybe when we're gonna do the video on pagan Christianity, that since there's only one man show, there's only one pastor, and he doesn't really focus on developing other Christians either in teaching or evangelism or pastoring. There's only literally Mormons and Jehovah Witnesses. And like Mormons are really aggressive. I was like, wow, they're like trying to, buy a coffee, buy some food. Like, especially think about this. If you're in impoverished country and like you barely surviving, and some American tells you, hey, let's have a pizza, I'll pay for it, you will be like, yes, wow, of course. Or have like, let's just say coffee even. So let's just say if you're able to send a missionary $1,000 per person, it goes a far long ways at in the United States.
So those are both demonic false religions, and they are full on cults. And
Yep.
I mean, Joseph Smith, the founder of Mormonism, Freemason, probably Luciferian, probably. I mean, same thing with the founder of the Jehovah's Witnesses is Russell. I forget his first name, but yeah, Russell. I mean, same thing, Mason. I mean, you look at his tombstone; it's an obelisk. It's just both those religions are just steeped in paganism. I could say a lot more, but I digress.
Yep. Yeah, and like, yeah, let me just read this one verse from Hosea 12, verse 7 and 8. A merchant in whose hands a false balance, he loves to oppress. Ephraim has said, oh, but I am rich. I have found wealth for myself. In all my labors, they cannot find in me iniquity or sin. Like some pastors who receive money from Albania, especially one pastor here in Lach. Funniest part is that Lach is one of the worst towns in Albania, like poverty wise. And but I was like, hey, I want to go to as many churches as I can. I told this to my wife, and we went. And this guy like jumps like Joe, no, not Joe and Benny Hinn. He jumps like a Benny Hinn, like, yeah, God make you rich. And like I was like, look at those people like around you, like they're like poor. Look at around you, like the town. It's poor. There's like literally nothing good in it except like this Roman Catholic church on top of the mountain. And I
Right.
was just like, to me, it was just so sad to watch this. Like, I usually just kind of like able to breathe in and breathe out, wanted to, but honestly, like with this guy, wanted to show some kickboxing. And it's like, oh, really, guy? Like, look at those people. Like, they hoping, like, maybe they already thinking, oh, maybe I will become a pastor and I will be rich or whatever. But sad to say, it's not just ends here. I'm going to read the Gospel of John, chapter 2, verse 13 through 16. The
Okay.
Passover of the Jews was near, and Jesus went up to Jerusalem. And within the temple grounds, he found those who were selling oxen, sheep, and doves, and the money changers seated at their tables. And he made a whip of cords and drove them all out of the temple area with the sheep and the oxen, and he poured out the coins of money changers and overthrown their tables. And those who were selling the doves, he said, take those things away from here. Stop making my father's house a place of business.
Yeah.
There's even like so-called conservative churches, like Baptist churches, evangelical churches, they still trying to make some money, even though they receive money from American churches. And I'm like, guys, I'm like looking at this, like people not buying stuff. You know why? Because they're poor, or whoever. Like it's kind of like unwritten rule in Albania. As soon as you get rich enough, that's why 7 to 10 million of Albanians are outside of Albania, and it's only 3 million of Albanians are in Albania, because as soon as you get rich enough, you leave Albania because it's poverty and corruption, basically. But
Yeah.
you have the American style churches exported from United States into Albania, into impoverished country.
Well,
Uh,
maybe this would be a good point to interject. Like, why don't you say, what is your view on, I know it, but the audience does it. What is your view on tithes? On like, what do you think the New Testament teaches about tithing?
First of all, Christ fulfilled Old Testament law on the cross. Tithing was never money in the first place. And honestly, like cheerful giving, like if you have, give, and if you do not have, do not give. And on top of this, it's like in American system churches, only really one man gets money for most of the part. Maybe some, maybe some administrators, or maybe worship singers or something like that. But most of the money goes to the pastor. While if they have a regular church member who is poor, um, basically he's still expected to tithe, even though maybe he's almost don't have enough money to even pay his rent.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it's I mean, the when you look at tithing in the Bible, it was an Old Testament temple tax. There's no mention of that. There's mention of cheerful giving in the New Testament, but there's no mention of tithing. That's something that was old covenant. It wasn't new covenant. Now, yeah, 10%, that's a great principle. I mean, I think if you have that and you're able to give 10, that's great. I mean, I think we are called to be generous givers. We're supposed to live sacrificially for the gospel, but there's nothing in the New Testament that says you have to give 10%. It's just not in there. That's my view on it anyway.
Yeah, exactly. And but once again, it's like in Albania, there's most of, like I said, most of the people who Albanians who stay in Albania are poor, and once you get rich enough, you get out. So it's kind of like it's kind of like whom are you gonna milk the money from in the first place? It's like
Right.
it's just mind-boggling to me. An
Right.
interesting thing is that um, what's some like in I noticed that some of the new translations they change these descriptions of the false prophets in Second Peter chapter 2. They shall make merchandise of you in covetousness by faint words. And interesting thing is that just making merchandise of God's people, like of course now nobody sells uh, oxen or sheep or doves, but now in America they sell sermons. Like, I mean, I'm trying to think of like how much Jesus could have charged anyone, how many golden coins he could have charged to come hear the Sermon on the Mount
Yeah.
live from Jesus Christ himself. Could have
It's
charged like
it,
100 pieces of gold.
these conferences is a really big example of, in my opinion, in the modern day of how we have merchandised the gospel, where you'll have, I mean, this was G3 before things really went south for them. Their VIP tickets, they were going to charge not the normal tickets, that was a few $100s, but the VIP tickets, they were going to charge $1,000 to meet the speakers, to meet the James Whites and the Vodi Bachums and et cetera, the Steve Lawsons. But I mean, that's a
Kind of
question.
reminds me.
Just real quick. I mean, should we be charging money to listen to people preach the gospel? I wouldn't have a problem if they're saying, hey, we're going to have a free will offering to cover the expenses
Yeah.
of the venue. That's a little different. You know, if they're saying, hey, we do want to just to make it happen, could you please give and support it? But when you're saying, hey, if you want to come in here, you want to listen to these guys preach, we're going to charge you money up front. Like, well, is that or is that not merchandising the gospel? Even though it'd be unpopular for me to say it, I'd put forward that it is.
Yeah, and especially like I used to kind of be biased. I mean, personally now, that okay in America is okay, but in poor countries like Albania it's not good. But no, I was biased at that time, and now I clearly see that no, it should not be married. It's either you live in like Luxembourg, one of the richest countries in the world, or you live in Albania, or you live in the United States. You should not be married. It should be gospel should be free. Like Christ says, the church and the Spirit says, "Come and drink of the the water of life freely or without cost."
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just like, what is this? And like I said, Albania kind of brought me back where it's like a poverty. It's like you're really gonna milk the last thing from people. Hey, come to the conference or buy this book or that book. It's just sad to watch.
Yeah, it really is. Another thing I've seen is there'll be certain Christians where maybe they're talking about topics that aren't very popular, and they'll create these online communities of like-minded people, but then in order to be a part of that group, that community, the person leading it will charge a monthly fee. And I've thought about that, and I go, well, should fellowship should we be charging for that? Because that's essentially what that is. I'm not going to name any names in this instance, but I've seen that online. I've thought about that. And I would say, well, if we're trying to minister, if it's about ministry and we're trying to bring Christians together, I think fellowship should be free. I don't have a problem with guys selling their books or selling some certain items on the side to support what they're doing. That's great, but we really need to. I don't think we think as very much about money in American evangelicalism as we should.
Well, I think once the Great Depression hits, it's gonna be really like who's gonna buy it and who's gonna have money to buy it,
Yeah,
and it's just a really matter of time. It's like, or could be opposite. Like, I don't know, it's war in, like, let's just say Venezuela. Is United States gonna suck all the oil out, and America regain its financial power again? We don't know that. Or somebody might help out Venezuela with weapons. So you never know what's gonna happen. But me personally, it's just now I'm at this point that, like, okay, if I want to make disciples in Albania, and let's just say this one person whom I evangelizing for like a really long time now, also if he comes to Christ, am I gonna charge him for the Bibles? Am I gonna charge him for the lessons? Or am I oh yeah, funniest part is that, like, my wife, she told me that some pastors even charge money to hear the gospel, not just not just Bible classes. Like, if you want to hear, if you want to attend Bible classes, it's another charge. But if you're a Muslim, let's just say, Joy, you're a Muslim, and I'm like, hey, Joy, I'm a Christian. Let's have a coffee. So we're having a coffee. I'm like, Joy, I have a great message from God, which can change your life and get you to heaven, can set you free. But to hear this message, you need to pay me 5 euros, which is like $5. But in Albania, $5 is actually a lot. But think about some people doing this in
yeah,
Albania. So if you want to hear the gospel from me, you have to pay me $5 first.
yeah. That's
So
it's ludicrous.
I know, but it's just sad to say. But at least what I heard from my wife, that's a couple of pastors, so-called Protestant pastors would do that nonsense.
Yeah, that's too bad.
And by doing that, I would say, but woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, because you shut the kingdom of heaven in front of the people, for you do not enter it yourselves, nor do allow those who are entering to go in. So by charging them $5 or whatever, $1 or $5, whatever, they're shutting the kingdom of God by doing so. And interesting thing, I kind of noticed that two pastors here in Albania, supposedly, um, it's like, it's almost like a hyper Calvinism when you deny the proclamation of the gospel is absolutely necessary. And there's a couple of questions in Romans 10, Paul asking, how then are they to call on him in whom they have not believed? And how they to believe in whom they have not heard? And how are they to hear without a preacher? But how are they to preach unless they send? Just as it is written, how beautiful are the feet of those who bring good news of good things. Yes, and now we're gonna talk about, like, Islam in Albania and Kosovo. To me, honestly, like, especially Kosovo one, like Islam in Kosovo is the weirdest Islam I ever seen.
Hmm.
Um, do you remember? Actually, go back one slide.
Yep.
Yeah, but Kosovo is just like um, the most friendliest Islam to Americans. So if you would like to visit Kosovo and to be a VIP and almost feel like an American king, uh, go to Kosovo because it's cheap prices, and Albanians in Kosovo, will almost like literally will give you free rides on the bus or even give you discounts. Uh, they they would literally love Americans there. Like the song "Remember I Sent You," like, "Oh, thank you, USA, you're my best friend." Cringy song, but Kosovo
Hmm.
is definitely Islam that you would not ever expect. Let's just say that.
It's not like this radical ISIS type Islam.
Opposite. It's more like I never seen most friendliest Muslims in my life. Let's just say that, especially if you have American passport too.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah,
but
that's interesting because it's different than what people might expect.
yep.
Yeah.
And actually, this guy goes by the name Skanderberg, George Castriti, but everybody knows him by Skanderberg. Basically, he's like a national hero here. He was born in an Orthodox family, but then he was taken like a hostage into Ottoman Empire, which is Turkey now, and there he was forcefully converted to Islam. But as soon as he able to, I guess, escape back to Albania and start a uprising against Ottoman Empire, he became Roman Catholic. I think for political reasons. I'm not sure, but it's kind of suspicious to me that as soon as he gets back to Albania, he becomes a Catholic. So in
Right.
Albania, uh, like since Skanderberg trying to unite Albanians to fight Ottoman, they have a religious toleration from basically 15th century where first you're Albanian, then you are either Orthodox, Catholic, or Muslim, but you will still fight against Ottoman Empire, which is technically Muslim as well. So it's kind of interesting that Albanians put nationality first and then religion, where Albanian Muslims were willing to kill Ottoman Muslims. So it's very interesting how he able to, I guess, manipulate things as a politician. Of course, as Christians, we should not do so. uh,
Right.
so, but he was a very crafty politician and a warrior as well. Great strategist, great politician, but as a Christian, able to unite Orthodox Muslims and Catholics is quite interesting way of doing things. So,
Hmm.
interesting things that when in United States, I used to listen to James White, David Woods. I forgot Wood or Woods. But interesting things that in Albania decide to restudy Islam because I've already been to Albania, Kosovo, Turkey, Bosnia Herzegovina. So four so-called Muslim countries, and honestly, what I see is that many Muslims they may know how to read the Quran in Arabic, but they have no idea what actually it says. Like if I teach Joey how to read in Albanian, because they pretty much using English letters, it would be easy for him to learn how to read it, but he would have no idea what's the meaning behind it. And in my opinion, like basically, like I would not be surprised if like 95, maybe even 99% of Muslims would have no idea what's in the Quran because Muslims are taught that even though they do have a translation in their own native language, it doesn't really count unless you read Quran in Arabic. So
Yeah, I've heard that
yes,
before. That only like really only the Arabic is truly the Quran, and the trans it's different than how Christians view the Bible.
exactly. And it's like the funniest part is that some Christians know Quran better than Muslims, because for Muslim to read a translation, it's like a kind of like, ooh, I don't know if you saw this, ooh, brother, ooh, what is this, brother,
Right.
type of thing. So to them, like reading a translation of the Quran in their own native language is not really counts. So most of the Muslims have no idea what's in the Quran itself. So, in my opinion, basically, whatever government permits to be Islam-like is what Islam is like in each country. Like, for example, Kosovo to me was like the biggest shock ever. Oh, you're American. Oh, free discount. I'll give you discount. I was like, that's a weird behavior.
Right.
I was like, I thought they're gonna, you know, well, funniest part is like if you go to Serbia and you say you're American, or you know your wife is from Albania, they will kill you or might beat you up at least. So,
Hmm.
so it's kind of like interesting to see and like see different form of Islam, and like funniest part, like in Albania, all people like who dress like this, you know, with all the traditional stuff, maybe like one in a thousand, one in 5,000, something like that. And most of them are in United States embassy who trying to get to United States.
Yeah, that is interesting.
Yes. So to me, I overlooked, I guess, Islam on a new way. And like when I evangelize to Muslims, I try to really point out that Jesus is the Son of God, God in the flesh, not just a prophet. With one Albanian, since he was kind of raised in a, from one side, his mother is a Muslim who wears a cross, by the way, and the father is an Orthodox. I actually went through whole Gospel of John with him, and it's like, look, it's impossible to go through and just ignore those Bible verses, literally like whole Gospel of John. If you don't see that Christ is fully divine, you don't see Trinity. I don't know what you're reading if you even pay
Right.
attention to Gospel of John, like John 11, 25 to 27. I'm just gonna read this uh, last part. I have come to believe that you are the Christ, the Son of God, and He who comes into the world. And notice Thomas, after Christ rose again from the dead, John 20, 27, 28, 28. Thomas answered and said to him, "My Lord and my God." So when I evangelized to Muslims, uh, actually, with one person, we literally went through whole Gospel of John in like 2 weeks. Uh, so, like my biggest thing with Muslims, I always try to focus on Christ. And honestly, like I usually sometimes ask Muslims, "Have you read the Quran?" Like
Hmm.
only like 1 in 10 or 1 in 20 people would say yes. And I was like, have you read the Quran in Albanian or in Aramaic? I mean, Arabic. If
Yeah,
they say
Arabic. Yeah.
Arabic, do you know the vocabulary of Arabic of what the seventh century or eighth century? I'm not sure when the Quran was written, but basically it's like Arabic of present is not the same Arabic of seventh or eighth century. So most of the time, don't even worry about reading and learning the Quran.
Yeah. So basically you're saying when you try to, well, you ask them if they read the Quran, but you also you're saying when you share the gospel, you're trying to focus, narrow in on specifically the person of Jesus Christ. What do you think of,
Exactly.
what do you think about Jesus? Yeah.
Exactly. Now kind of have like a playlist for Orthodox, Muslims, and Roman Catholics specifically, like how evangelize to one group or another group. But
It's kind of, I mean, it's kind of an interesting place to be doing the work of an evangelist because you have so many different, it's such a mixing pot of religions. You're in a place where there's a lot of different belief systems all in one place.
but funniest part is that like with Orthodox and Roman Catholics, I actually focus on the later part, like after Paul's conversion and till then, like basically that with Roman Catholics and Orthodox, basically on idolatry, um, with some basic verse for idolatry. For they exchanged the truth of God for falsehood and worshipped and served the creature rather than the Creator, who is blessed forever. Amen. Like
Yeah.
Roman Catholics, they would worship statues. Uh, Muslims, they would worship this Kaaba, this black stone in Mecca, and Orthodox, they would worship icons. Interesting thing, like if you talk to like Orthodox people, basically they're forbidden to have statues, which is a three-dimensional image, but they're allowed to have icons, which is a two-dimensional image. So it's kind of like it's kind
Right.
of funny to me.
Oh yeah,
So
it's if we're supposed to hate idolatry, and Christians we are supposed to hate idolatry. It's something that God himself hates. We really shouldn't be turning a blind eye to it within quote professing Christendom. And I think I say this because a lot of Protestants and evangelicals really don't care. They are so, I mean, they don't want to talk about Rome, they don't want to talk about Eastern Orthodoxy. And ironically, a lot of young reformed men, and maybe some women too, but a lot of young reformed men are converting to Catholicism and Eastern Orthodoxy. It's something going on in the States.
yeah, I mean, honestly, like in America, it's not as clear of idolatry as in Italy or it Greece. Like if you go to Rome, I mean, it's just like what are they doing? Like worshiping statues, worship. I mean, it's just set to watch the whole thing. And Orthodox, if you go to Greece, it's just like the same thing with icons. Or like if you go to Greece, they have like a small, tiny temples right on the beach where you can go inside and put a candle for your sins and bow down to icons and stuff. So
Oh yeah, it's I mean, when you look at, I mean, the idolatry, the use of images that came into the church over centuries, but it doesn't get proclaimed until this officially the Second Council of Nicaea. It's 787 is when that it got proclaimed. And you read a lot of the church fathers in the centuries before that; they were actually speaking against it, whatever theological errors they may have had themselves. It was not accepted in Christendom for centuries. This use of images and idolatry.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um, an interesting thing about
Oh, this one.
interesting, yeah, that idolaters and homosexuals will end up in hell. Do you not know that the unrighteous will not inherit the kingdom of God? Do not be deceived. No sexually immoral people, idolaters, adulterers. I know it's effeminate, but actually it should be compromisers
Yeah.
or homosexuals, nor thieves, greedy person, people, drunkards, verbally abusive people, or swindlers will inherit the kingdom of God. And some of you used to be like this, but you are washed, you are sanctified, you are justified in the name of the Lord Jesus Christ and by the Spirit of our God. So interesting things that in United States, I kind of noticed that you have Roman Catholics and like a few Protestants will be like, "Oh, bunch of idolaters, bunch of idolaters," or some Protestants will be like, "Well, it's not bad, but man, homosexuals, they definitely will go to hell. They definitely will go to hell." But both idolaters and homosexuals will end up in hell, which
Well,
wrong.
yeah, the conservative movement in America, the evangelicals have tried to team up with the Roman Catholics to fight secularism and liberalism, and what has been the fruit of that? It's been a disaster. It's been an unmitigated disaster. We
Absolutely, and like funniest part, like it's kind of like what's his name? Here we go, Charlie Kirk. Here we go, him being like a compromiser. He trying to justify idolatry of Mormonism, Roman Catholicism, Freemasonry. But man, homosexuals, those liberals, man, they definitely will go to hell.
yeah.
But it's just, but they in the same sentence, they will all three types of group of people will end up in hell.
Well, I was pretty shocked. I learned because even in the more conservative Reformed churches, like I was shocked when I learned Doug Wilson, for example, he allows Roman Catholics to take the Lord's table at his church because he has that federal vision theology where he says, well, they have a Trinitarian baptism, so therefore they should be allowed to the table. And that's a whole rabbit hole. But like for people in the theonomist camp, they're saying, well, we should enforce both tables of the Ten Commandment, but then they're saying, oh yeah, like Roman Catholicism, it's not a big. I mean, that's what they're essentially saying is, oh yeah, they turn a blind eye to that. Well, that's inconsistent. If you're going to use these arguments of, well, the kings of Israel were putting down idolatry and they were commended by that by God, and you're going to turn a blind eye to the greatest manifestation of idolatry in the Western world, then what are we doing? It's completely inconsistent. It's kind of hard for me. It's kind of hard for me not to comment on it.
Yeah, I mean, it's well to me like Doug Wilson is like, in my opinion, he's a Jesuit working for Rome secretly, so I'm not kind of surprised by him. But many so-called evangelical or even reformed as closing their eyes on Roman Catholic idolatry. I mean, it's just like that's so obvious, guys. I mean, praying to Mary, like basically you denying Jesus Christ is the only mediator. I mean,
Yeah,
it's,
it's
basically you're being a Malakos, you're being a compromiser. Because, by the way, is it interesting thing that by Greek tutors, actually, as I said, like in modern Greek Bibles, they also translate it as a word "ephemerit," which is like be addressing like women basically, but it should have been compromisers, much closer to actual proper translation.
that's interesting. Yeah, that is interesting. You sound like you got a bit of a cold man. You sound like
Yeah,
you're
for some reason, I guess I
yeah.
got called just today, just before the interview. But
Well,
like
that's
with Roman,
okay. We'll forgive you.
yeah, hopefully it
Forgive you
won't
for
be.
getting ill, which is completely out of your control.
Yeah. But with
Uh,
Roman Catholics, I actually have like a small Bible study with them, and both actually Roman Catholics and Orthodox. Would start like with Exodus 20, verse 4. Um, Do not make an idol for yourself, whether in the shape of anything in the heavens above, or on the earth below, or in the waters under the earth. You must not bow down to them or worship them, for I am the Lord your God, am a jealous God, punishing the children of the father's sin to the third and fourth generation to those who hate me, Then I point out that in I noticed most of the translations in English translations they try to water this down, where it says actually the so like Aaron he took the gold from their hands, furnished it with an engraved tool, and made it into an image of a calf. And then they said, Israel, this is your God who brought you up from the land of Egypt. Notice that the Jews, they actually said that the golden calf itself is the Yahweh that, that brought them out of the land of Egypt. Because like if you look at the interlinear Bible, it's actually Yahweh, not like what's this called? Not like gods. Like I noticed most of the translations use word gods instead of God with big G. And
Yeah.
then and then interesting thing, like in Deuteronomy 27:15, it says, the person who makes a carved idol or cast image which is detestable to the Lord, the God, or the work of a craftsman, and set it up in secret is cursed. And all the people will reply, Amen. And,
Right.
I usually go over with both Roman Catholics and Orthodox with those verses.
Yeah.
Also, you have this the cash cow of money laundering for Vatican. Mother Teresa was born in Albania, by the way, and they have a bunch of statues and um,
Interesting.
yeah, like they like literally like bound down to her, like kissing her, and interesting things that even some Muslims are willing
Well,
to bow down to.
so let's explain this for a second, because most people think Mother Teresa was like this really compassionate woman who was helping all these people in India. So you're saying that that's not accurate, huh?
No, I know. Funniest part that Christopher Hitchens he made a movie. I think it's Hell's Angel, where he would expose her, and especially now that lots of people from India who used to be part of her ministry, pretty much testifies that most of the money she just wasted away. Oh, it
Mm,
was put into the Vatican bank basically, and of course 100 million of dollars was not is not big money now, but back then in what 1980s 1970s it was huge amount of money where she could build like a you know state of the art hospitals, but she didn't.
yeah.
So like nowhere in Albania, nowhere in India, there's not a hospital was built by her on those monies that was donated to her. And some Albanians actually build hospitals in the name of Mother Teresa, but not on those money.
Hmm. That's interesting. So then
And
we got orthodoxy.
yeah, Orthodox. Actually, this one is my favorite Bible verse to share with Orthodox idolaters. It's Isaiah 44, verse 14 to 19. He will cut cedar for himself and take a whole oak or another oak and let it grow strong for himself among the trees of the forest. He plants a laurel tree, and the rain makes it grow. Then it becomes something for a person to burn. So he takes one of them and gives warm, and he also takes a fire and bakes bread. He also makes a god and worships it. He makes it a carved image and bows down before it. Half of it he burns in the fire oven. This half he eats meat. He roasts a roast and it's satisfied. He also warms himself and say, Aha, I'm warm. I have seen the fire. Yet the rest of it he makes into a god. His carved image, he bows down before it and worships it. He also prays to it and says, "Save me, for you, my God." It goes on, but yeah, it's kind of interesting. Oh
Yeah.
yeah, uh,
Let's try to get through the rest of these slides kind of here, Alexei, so we can get to the
yeah.
questions.
So
Yeah.
to me, the heavy burden of Islam, to me, is just saddest. Like to me, that's like saddest part here, especially during the summer.
Yeah.
Uh,
But
uh,
I think we can we've kind of already talked about it. You mind if I move ahead here? Is
yeah,
that
yeah,
okay? Yeah, because we've kind of covered it, I think. And then
yeah. Basically, like in the
but
summer,
this part you haven't talked about this part with
yeah, like
because
every
they pray 5 times a day.
yeah, and like you hear this loud noise in like one of the mosque if you live next to it or your hotel is next to it. And in the summer, sometimes you have to wake up at 4:30 in the morning, and the late one, it's like at 10 p.m. at night, where you will not get 8 hours of sleep straightforward. And if you work like the job where the time is different. It's just like, I mean, you pretty much like a walking zombie in the summer, I think.
Yeah.
If you're a Muslim, sad to say.
You know, it's funny where I'm at in the Twin Cities in Minneapolis and the surrounding areas. We have because of immigration, we have a very large Somali Muslim population here in the Twin Cities, and like many parts of the U.S., it's not as bad as Europe, but there's an increasing Islamic influence in the part of the country where I'm at, and also in other parts of the U.S. too. But it's really prominent in the Twin Cities. The potential there's the guy running for mayor for the Democrats in Minneapolis, and he's a Somali Muslim, and then the congressional district I am, Ilhan Omar, a Somali Muslim. So yeah, increasing influence even here.
Yep. Then
And
five
then
pillars of Islam, which funniest part that I usually ask like Muslims, can you name 5 pillars of Islam? No, okay, I consider him automatically as a Gnostic or Gnostic somewhat. It's because honestly, it's really pointless to argue about what the Quran says when he doesn't even know what it says.
if they don't know it themselves, right?
Yeah, it's like really pointless. Then, like, I try to make a big difference for actually all three groups: Roman Catholics, Muslims, and Orthodox. Basically, is that Jesus Christ is the only way to God.
Mm,
And the slide before actually with Orthodox and Roman Catholics about basically after I go through the Bible with them about idolatry, I point out that it should be self-evident or should be obvious the deeds of the flesh. Honestly, like if somebody is born again, I don't have to argue with you about Roman Catholicism, like idolatry wise, or homosexuality sin. No, it should be obvious,
right.
self-evident. So, and the good deeds is the deeds that Holy Spirit causing within us. It's not that
Yeah.
we try to gain salvation, but we already have salvation, and out of the abundance of the heart, mouth speaks, and we produce actually good works.
So I mean, to sum it up, I mean, for both Rome and Eastern Orthodoxy, when they're praying to Mary, praying to the saints, they're praying in front of either Rome, the statues, or Eastern Orthodoxy, the images. This isn't a minor sin. The New Testament's very clear. It's a major sin, and
Exactly.
it's not something that should be ignored or winked at. And for evangelicals, they shouldn't be pretending that people who are doing that are fine with the Lord. They need to, if they want to truly have compassion, they need to speak to that and address that, and not be saying, "Oh, there are brethren in Christ," when they're worshiping idols.
Exactly, and I mean, and I would even question like, hey, if with some is evident, like it's self-evident, like evident it says in this translation, but it's kind of like obvious. It should be obvious to you that this bound down to statues, so bound down to icons, is idolatry. So sometimes maybe some people uh, compromising so much, maybe their salvation might be even questioned.
I feel like, in evangelicalism, they'll talk about things like social justice. They might talk about cultural Marxism. A lot of talk about Islam, especially after 9/11. But Rome, I mean, maybe you get a mention of it here or there, but it's not really talked about that much in evangelicalism because there's all this ecumenism. And I mean, evangelical Catholics together and all the, what was it, the Manhattan Declaration. Like, it's something that's really ignored.
Yep, sad to say.
Sad to say, but all right. And
Yeah,
then you kind of talk. You want to talk about this more, or you
yeah.
said
Actually,
talk
like
about.
interesting things that in Albania, it's almost doesn't really matter Orthodox, Muslim, or Roman Catholic, but all of them are universalist basically. So it's kind of weird, like even to evangelize to all the three groups, but ultimately almost all of them are universalists. Like if you talk to a Muslim, it's like, what do you think about Christianity? Yeah, we're going on the same way. What do if you ask Orthodox, what do you think about Islam? Oh, it's the same. Yeah, as long as you live a good life, you're good. And I was like, no, you're not.
Yeah,
So it's
that's kind
in
of the spirit of the age. It's universalism in the new age. It just
yeah,
kind of
but in Albania is just so weird that even Muslims, like, well, to some degree, once again, once I find out that basically most of them never read the Quran, or if they read the Quran, they have no idea what's the meaning behind it. So it's just very weird.
right. And then okay, and then these are right here are the questions that
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I should go one by one because actually I can click next.
yeah.
Can you please
So
go into a little bit? Okay, it's
yeah,
basically I usually start off like people sit in a park. It's like a one really good park to evangelize. Come by, say, can I ask a couple of spiritual questions? Some people say no, but most of them say yes. If you would have died today, where would you go, hell or heaven? And most of them they would say, well, I'm a Muslim, or I'm a Orthodox, or I'm a Roman Catholic. I live a good life. I don't kill nobody. I'm a nice little person, basically. Well, I would explain to them, all have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. All your righteousness is a filthy rags before the Lord. Without faith in true Jesus Christ, you cannot please God. Matter of fact, without faith, everything is a sin. All you think is evil continually before the Lord.
right,
And I explained to them that uh, Islam is idolatry, or basically, yeah, Islam is idolatry, Orthodox is idolatry, or Roman Catholicism is idolatry, and it's a way to hell, basically.
right. Yeah, absolutely. And you've told me about how you've had fruit. You've had good conversations. You've done Bible studies with people. So
Yeah,
it's
yeah. Actually, like I said, like now I'm trying to like follow up with most of the people. Like even though they don't call me or they don't contact me, but if I see them in a park, I'll tell them like, hey, maybe we should have like a cup of coffee, something like that. And some people do because once again, uh, all of a sudden some stranger invites you for cup of coffee, or even a restaurant. It's even better. It's almost like, even though it's a carnal wish, just feed just fill your stomach, but hey, sometimes what they
if
mean
that
for
it's a little
evil.
bit more informal. I mean, you're breaking down some of those walls. Might
Yeah,
open up
yeah, and
That's just being winsome.
yeah,
Like
exactly. And like
let's just sit
I
down.
said,
Let's
like
sit
have
down
a
and talk.
gospel. Yeah, so have like a gospel check. I usually try to go over with them and make sure they read it. And I listen like, hey, could you read in Albanian? And I will explain in English, and my wife she will translate. So, and with one person, we went through whole Gospel of John together and topics of idolatry. Then he kind of messaged me like here and there. So we'll see what's going to happen with him. So that's how I usually evangelize.
That's cool. And then this is the one I'm really been excited to ask is because you know, the audience doesn't know that you study Greek, and you're
Yes.
doing a lot of work in modern Greek right now, but you're hoping to be able to also know biblical Koine Greek or Kine Greek, if I'm
Kini, just
pronouncing
Kini, simple
Kine.
Kini.
Yeah, but why don't you tell us? Because I don't think many people know like what is the state of Bibles, Protestant Bibles in Albania, because I don't think Americans have any idea about what this situation is like.
Yeah, there's no King James Bible. I'm sorry, guys, but but basically, what happens in Albania? I'm not sure which year. I should have probably looked it up, but in the last centuries, they translated from Italian into which actually Italians they got it from King James. They translated King James in Italian, and then they grabbed the Italian translation and translated into Albanian, and it was actually paid translators who were atheists. But a few weeks ago, actually, gentleman from Tirana, Azim, he also translated my Gospel Jack from English into Albanian. Told me that they finally got a new translation where they translated New Testament from Greek, but seems like funniest part that like many Americans esteem Americans, Albanians esteem Americans so much they would use American Greek interlinear Bible instead of actually going to Greece, which is literally the country next door and would much cheaper to learn in Albania instead of sending somebody into United States. So that's still, I think it's could be improved, especially if the translation was made from by scholars who learned Greek from Americans instead of the scholars who learned Greek from Greeks themselves, because I think Greeks they know Greek better than the Americans.
And you've said that you've told me how you believe that learning modern Greek can enhance learning biblical Greek. And you've also said that you see it as that the American seminaries teach you to read the New Testament in Greek, but they don't have any idea how to speak it. And there's a lot of context that even Americans who have gone through seminary level training don't have. So maybe you could talk about that a little bit.
Oh yeah, funniest part when I was still kind of like was on the edge. I decided to do truck driving over the road, and interesting things that God put me into this town in the middle of nowhere. I can't even remember the name of it, in Montana, and I went to this one church. I think it was. I'm not sure which what's even denomination was that, but the pastor had a PhD in biblical Greek, and I asked him like, "Tikanis, Melene Alexei, Kesis." He's like, "What?" Uh, I was like, "Okay, Poselene. Like, what is your name?" I don't know. I'm sorry. So I was like, huh, interesting. So even basic things in seminaries, they don't even know how to say it.
Yeah.
So,
In a lot of, I mean, I took Greek 1 and 2 at the seminary level, and I've lost a lot of it because I haven't kept up with it. But I mean, I think when the textbooks, a lot of times they'll be in the beginning, in the preface or the introduction, there may be a little footnote or a little paragraph section about pronunciation. But you can go find very obscure papers about how things are pronounced, whatever. But it's very much an emphasis just on on reading it. I can even speak to that, having taken some language training at the seminary level.
but funniest part is that like I know words, how actually names, for example, how they pronounce in Russian and in American so-called fake Greek, because Erasmus, kind of like Erasmus is almost like a um, using the Erasmus as a shield to kind of like almost like don't want to learn proper pronunciation and speaking is kind of like, why would you, how would you even give somebody a PhD if the person cannot even speak few basic words?
Right.
uh, to me it's just the oddest thing. And like, and once again, modern Greek is about 50% of Kini Common Greek. So if you learn modern Greek first, you already have 50%. All you gotta do is learn extra words and little bit modification of sentence structure.
Yeah.
So that's why I usually prefer to learn modern Greek first and then go into the Kini Greek.
And last thing I'll ask you before we go to the next question is, I mean, you've talked about the difficulty that would come from translating, doing translation work into Albanian. Is Albanian's a hard language, and you said it's really not connected to some of the other uh, linguistic branches or family trees. It's not. It's
Yeah,
not like
it's actually
it's not a
it's not.
Romance language or a Latin based
No,
language.
no, it's actually like if you Google it, it's actually on itself. It's literally have nothing close to it.
Yeah,
Like
it's not close to Greek or Russian or any of this,
English,
right?
Italian,
Any of
no,
them. It's
any of
completely stands on its own, Albanian.
exactly. So it's kind of like, to me, it was just like, man, like Bosnia Herzegovina, it's very close to Russian. Bulgaria is actually very close to Russian. Okay, Greek, which I studied, um, Italian is actually close to English, but Albanian language, it's especially like you have two dialects, which make it a little bit more difficult. Like if you're gonna go evangelize to Albania, make sure you know which dialect is used in which part of the country or which city specifically. Like if you gonna go to Kosovo, I already forgot. I think it's Gag dialect is used. So make sure you study that specific dialect so you would not have to waste a lot of time.
Yeah. So I mean, the bottom line is that there's a lot of work that needs to be done to get a better Albanian Bible. Like there's a lot
Yeah.
of like, and I mean, you could talk about this too because you've talked about how you. Why don't you tell the audience what you've told me about how you feel about how Bible translation is something that is not appreciated in evangelicalism as it should be. Like, yeah,
Yeah,
I mean, speak
it's
to that a little bit.
yeah, it's this one gentleman. He translates lots of books from English into Albanian, but seems like throughout evangelical world, like seems like the Bible is almost like something that people trying to use to justify their book. Like, okay, here's a reference here and there. Where Bible, I believe in itself, if it's translated properly and accurately, it should be easily understood. Interesting things that when I was learning Greek, I was specifically trying to use either non-orthodox or somebody who is agnostic. And basically where I came up to conclusion is basically it was written for like middle school people. It's not written like, for example, like perpetuation. Instead, we could have translated as a mercy sacrifice, much more simpler word to understand, or expiation. It's like the New Testament is basically using words of the first centuries that a regular person could understand. They would not try to use some lawyery or some political language and stuff. It would be actually should be easier to understand. And
Yeah.
also, since uh, many Albanians esteem Americans so high. They think Americans know Greek better than Greeks themselves, which is kind of ironic.
Yeah, but you've also you've said like a lot of men, they may want to say, "Oh, I want to be a pastor. I want to be an elder."
Yeah, yeah. It's like
Some might want to be a missionary, but like there's not a lot of guys saying, "Hey, I want to be a Bible translator." Like they're not
funniest part. Yeah, actually,
specifically translating into foreign languages.
exactly. And like, actually used to be part of a weekly Bible translations group, and most of the people they try to translate from English, let's just say, into Russian, or from English into whatever language is need to be translated into. But most of the translators, they have no training at all in Greek or Hebrew. So,
Right.
and some of them don't even know about interlinear Bibles, that you can actually use the software. Pretty much gives you like 99% accuracy actually to
Which is
translate it.
it's a great tool, but it shouldn't be used as a replacement for knowing the languages if you're doing
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly. And it's sad to say, it's like, I mean, like if you saw like Joe Rogan's podcast where he said, no, it's from English to Italian to Albanian, from Albanian to some other language, but it should not be so, especially
right.
when you have Greece right next door.
Well, I would say that I mean when we read about the Great Commission in the end of Matthew and Mark, I
Mhm.
mean obviously proclaiming and the preaching is what we read about, but if we're truly fulfilling the Great Commission, it includes the word of God has to be translated into the languages of the nation. It's a major part of the church's calling. And so I'm really glad like our conversations have been helpful for me. It's been cool to think. I'm like, yeah, that's something that we don't always think about as much. And I think that's helpful. And it's something that Christians we should be thinking about. Like, yeah, and praying about. We should be praying about this. Like we need to pray that nations that don't have Bibles from the originals into their language, they need that, and that's
You,
something that
you,
we need to pray about more.
Yes, absolutely. And like actually today I was listening this one Ukrainian podcast, and there she was praying that, hey, we only have translations from like 16th century. What's wrong with that picture? Like we don't have like modern translations. Why? Why we don't have like translators to translate into with some into Ukrainian or Russian or wherever, or Albanian from Common Greek and ancient Hebrew into modern language, and it should not be like, hey, let's use archaic words from last century. No, it should be like 21st century vocabulary,
Right.
and it's sad to say, but think of how many pastors or how many like pastors would encourage their congregation, guys, we need some translators so that we could translate the Bible into all the languages in the world. But many Americans, they just kind of like, hey, um, let's just teach them English, and everybody will speak English, and everybody can read the Bible in English.
Well,
Funniest part,
it's not as glamorous of a calling as the idea of the pastor that many people have in their heads. Like
yeah,
it's just not. It's I don't know. It's not many men are going to look at that necessarily the same way. Even though
yeah,
maybe they should, but that's not what is commonplace.
yeah, and on top of this, financially wise, it's like if you have to pay for tutors like myself, like how many 400 hours plus $10 per piece, then my own time, then bunch of other things as well. I mean, now it's not as expensive if you know what you're doing, but if you go
Right.
to the seminary, you might be $200,000 in debt if you go American route. Sad to
Yeah,
say, but
it's a lot of I mean, education is expensive. So, okay, well, why don't we move along here too? So, we kind of talked about this one a little bit already. How many evangelical Protestant churches are in Albania?
funniest part, in Tirana itself, like which is the capital, which is about 1 million people, it's actually almost like a every 500 meters. It's like 10, 20 people congregation. I know one place they have one church, I think is like meets at like 9 a.m. But then the other church it meets at 12 p.m. And it's kind of like a battle for this clients within Tirana. And I think it's like also Duras somewhat also like they have lots of churches too, and it's also the same thing. But if it's like a small town or mid-sized town, it's about maybe like one or two churches. And like I live in Korcha right now. It's I would say one somewhat mid-sized, about 50 people. Then one tiny one, 10 people, and then it's 20 people. So it's like three churches in Korcha that I know of that are Protestants, but it's once again it's more like a sloppy agape, feel good type of stuff.
So you're basically long story short, healthy churches. The healthy churches are small, they're few, and they're far between.
Well, like I said, so far I only saw two churches in whole Albania that are Reformed Baptist, basically, that actually doing the work.
Right. Gotcha. And then this one is obviously this is kind of a historical question, but Albania, there was the war in the Balkans in the 1990s, and you got that picture there of Bill Clinton, of bad Bill. So how was Albania affected by the war? And that was then Yugoslavia, right?
Yes, back then it used to be Yugoslavia, and basically like in Kosovo and well Albania somewhat, but in Kosovo they really love Albanians, like the song. I mean, I really love Americans and that song, like "Thank you USA, you are my best friends." It was such a cringy song, but yeah, like Kosovo, there's a lot of Americans there. Albanians. Oh yeah, they have a boulevard, George Bush Boulevard in Tirana.
Really?
Yes. So they're like, I mean,
Yay for neocons.
yes, basically, yeah. They're like.
Oh boy.
I mean, the funniest part is that Bill Clinton is a Democrat, George Bush is a
Republican.
Republican, and it's kind of like as long as you're American president, you're good to go.
Good to go. That's funny.
Yeah.
Okay. And then I'm gonna just move ahead here because we're over 90 minutes. But last question is
Oh yeah, that's basically a show. Like, and Kosovo is actually 93% are Muslims,
yeah,
and
so
like
a lot of Muslims in Kosovo.
yeah. But once again, it's a totally different type of Islam that you heard of. It's I do believe that I guess the original Islam by Muhammad is violent and so-called extremist,
Yeah.
but because political people can manipulate imams, and most of the people cannot read Quran, they can easily manipulate what the original Islam teaches.
Yeah. So like you said before, it's not this Wahhabism extremist, ultra literal type of Islam that's
Yeah,
violent.
and
It's a
funniest part, I've been to Bosnia and Herzegovina. I went actually one way to the location, and then going the other way, and I couldn't find one mosque. Not one time I heard a call to prayer. I couldn't find one woman or man dressing like a traditional Muslim garments. So I'll start questioning even like maybe the whole thing, that how they describe this Yugoslavian war as maybe just like a big political propaganda, overall speaking.
right. Okay, so that's good. Let's go to final question is, and then we'll close out. Is what is your hope and prayer for the progress of the gospel in Albania?
Well, Paul wrote in Romans 15:20, and thus I make it my ambition to preach the gospel not where Christ has already been named, lest I build on someone else's foundation. And also I would say Matthew 9:36-38. When he saw the crowd, he had compassion for them because they were harassed and helpless, like sheep without a shepherd. Then he said to his disciples, "The harvest is plentiful, but the laborers are few. Therefore, pray earnestly to the Lord of the harvest to send out laborers into his harvest." And I pray that God will send real evangelists who would willing to engage people on the street, who would willing to learn Albanian, not like me, but I have a translator, thanks God. But that somebody would go and actually evangelize on the street, willing to learn the language, would be willing to go to places, not just to tourist Tirana or tourists Duras, but throughout other places, like literally just somebody is willing to go besides Duras and Tirana, anywhere in Albania. I mean, that would be my prayer.
Yeah.
Yeah, basically, yeah, those two Bible verses. If you go anywhere except, like I said, besides Duras and Tirana, there's lots of harvest, lots of people who never heard the true gospel of Jesus Christ. So
yeah,
that would be my prayer.
Well, amen. So, well, let me say at this point, well, brother, thank you for coming on. Thank you for being willing to share all of this information about Albania and the state of religion there, the state of the church there, state of the Bible there. This is information that I don't think is easily available for Christians here in the States to get. And even if you look stuff up on Google, it's not the same as talking to someone who is doing work there. So I just want to thank you for your time to share this, because I think it is really, really great and helpful information.
Yeah, and like I said, I changed my view on specifically on Islam, that you can basically manipulate Islam however you want it, or how governments of each country wants. So, like I said, if you go to Kosovo, you will be greatly surprised.
Yeah, it's different than what you expect. So, okay, well, that being said, where can people where can people be in touch with you and what you're doing? I mean, feel free. What do you plug whether it's your YouTube channel or whatever else?
Yeah, it's actually it's on Facebook. You can just type in my name, Alexei Kokoulin, or you can go on YouTube. It's Predestined Alexei Kokoulin. So there's two ways.
And I'll include the link to your YouTube channel in the description for the video. And all right, guys, please be remembering to pray for the progress of the gospel in Albania. Please be praying specifically for Alexei's evangelistic conversations. He goes out, talks to people, pass out gospel tracts like we've talked about. And then obviously prayer for the translation of the Bible from the original languages into Albanian. Those are all things that we can be praying about. So that being said, that's this edition of Reformed Truther Ministries. I'm going to pull this down. And this has been Alexei and me, Joe Harper of Reformed Truther Ministries, signing off. God bless everybody.
If you have been blessed by the ministry of RTM, then please consider supporting our ministry through BuyMeACoffee, and check out our website at www.reformedtruther.com.